Also developing tonight, just hours ago, a federal grand jury in Tampa unsealed a 37-page indictment accusing 4 people in St. Petersburg of conspiring with the Russian government to interfere with U.S.-based elections.
That includes St. Petersburg city election in 2019. Then Tampa Bay Shannon Close sifted through the indictment tonight and explains how investigators say this happened.
Well, the federal government is alleging that members with the African People's Socialist Party, as well as the Uhuru movement, conspired with Russian officials to interfere with our local elections here in St. Pete. They're saying that Russians would do this to gain control of the United States.
My name is Ivanov from Moscow.
Alexander Ionov is one of 3 Russian officials accused of using 4 U.S. citizens as Russian agents to spread pro-Russian propaganda.
Speaking about the true situation in Ukraine.
Ionov is the founder of the anti-globalization movement of Russia. The FBI adds Ionov and 2 other Russian officials worked with 4 people in St. Pete: O'Malley Yeshitela, the chairman of the Uhuru movement, plus 3 members of the African People's Socialist Party, Penny Hess, Jesse Neville, and Augustus Romaine Jr. The FBI says Russian officials funded and directed campaigns like St. Pete's 2019 election. A former FBI agent explained to us back in August why Russians would do this.
Is they don't really care what party is in power, what political party is in power here. This is all about weakening the United States, whether, it's pitting Democrats against Republicans or rich against poor.
Those are part of the Uhuru
we always say the Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips, I am a revolutionary.
These are the voices of New Afrika. These are the voices of New Afrika. These are the voices of New Afrika. Free in the land, and we ain't asking y'all.
Welcome to another episode of the Voices of New Afrika, the show where we educate the uneducated and re-educate the miseducated. I'm your brother, your host, Brother Prophecy, but I'm not by myself. I got my elder, my grandmaster teacher, the one and only, the only one. Brother Fadala, how you doing?
Great as I can under the imperialist system that we have evict like that.
No doubt, definitely. And today is Mother's Day. Hold on, man, my screen just shut down on me. Apologize for that. I don't know why. Just keep getting issues. There we go. But today is Mother's Day, and I guess we want to start out the show properly and wish all of the mothers out there, all the queen mothers, the sisters, melanated goddesses, happy Mother's Day to y'all. And we know we don't need anybody to tell us that we're allowed to celebrate the mothers, because mothers are so important, because the mother is the first teacher of the child. So if you raise up a Black woman, you raise up the entire Black nation. So with that, I just want to say happy Mother's Day to everybody out there, all the mothers out there. You got anything you want to say, Grandmaster Teacher?
Yes, Queen Mothers are the destiny of our people. Invested in the Queen Mother, and the education of the children. And these are the kind of things that we have to begin to make sure that the woman is equal in all the things that are involved in the liberation struggle.
Definitely. So we started to show off with a news clip with the African People's Socialist Party. They're under fire. A couple of their members have been charged with helping Russia to interfere with elections in the United States of America. And we wanted to kind of use that to kind of spark the conversation about us having a global struggle, and kind of put in perspective what's going on with the African People Socialist Party and what actually is going on with them and why the United States government is attacking them.
Yes. Yesterday there was an emergency meeting in St. Louis. get a chance to attend, and I didn't get a chance to tune in. But basically, it was about dropping the charge, the WHO 3, which included Chairman O'Malley Isatella, who was the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party. And so basically, last July, the FBI made a raid, like a month after they made a raid on Donald Trump. But the raid that they made on the African People's Socialist Party and its leadership was much different than the raid they made on Donald Trump, because they proceeded to have percussion grenades, and they kicked in the doors, and they handcuffed the leader of the organization, Omar Isatella, and his wife, and they stole their telephones and computer equipment, and then they made another raid in St. Petersburg, Florida, at the headquarters, and in addition to a raid in St. Louis at the Solidarity, African Solidarity headquarters. And so they basically, for a long time, there was no charge, being put out. But recently they have charge 3, and they're called the WHO 3. And we're trying to get them to drop the charges on the WHO 3 and drop the charge and stop dealing with the WHO movement, trying to stifle the WHO movement. And all this goes back to a meeting that happened in Russia on multilateral, participation, and Chairman O'Malley and I guess Sister Penny Hett and Penny Hett, who is the chairman of the Solidarity Committee, which was a white organization that was formed by the African People's Socialist Party to help bring about reparation resources to the African community. And so since that time, there have been mobilizations of Africans in St. Louis and in St. Petersburg and Oakland and all the places where the African People's Socialist Party is located to get the government to drop those charges. And but it's basically what we talk about in terms of background is anytime that any group gets involved on an international level, that is trying to organize African people, trying to liberate African people, there have been the government has always come in and dismantled or tried to disrupt any activity that we have, and goes all the way back to Marcus Garvey, when Marcus Garvey was the leader of the Universal Negro Improvement Association African Communities League, which was an international organization that organized over 11 million African people. And so they felt like this was a danger to the U.S. government, U.S. democracy. So therefore, they imprisoned Marcus Garvey, and eventually they evicted him from the United States back to Jamaica. And since that time, they have done this. They've interfered with activities of W.E.B. Du Bois, Paul Robeson, and others who basically had started having a relationship with international, people, such as in what they call the Soviet Union. And and the latest in the 1960s, where they destroyed the movement of the 60s, in which Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and 30 members of the Black Panther Party were murdered by the U.S. government.
Sit back a little bit.
Yeah, by the U.S. government. And so, and all of this is based on our attempt to move away from civil rights toward human rights. And once we started talking about human rights, the government felt like it was a danger to so-called U.S. security, and eventually, and this is what the African People's Socialist Party has posed to the United States government and particularly talking about it dealing with elections and basically the Biden administration has tried to do what they call a raid on any kind of African participation in any world affairs.
Yeah, me make a very important point. I think it's very important that our audience understands, because basically anytime, let me get this mic straight. Anytime that one of our leaders step beyond the boundaries or the authority of the United States of America, then the government viciously attacks us. As long as we are staying within the boundaries of the authority under the umbrella of the United States, then I mean, we're okay. We may have the resistance doesn't elevate to the level that we find ourselves in. This is throughout our history, and they should really kind of tell us where our struggle should be headed, because once we move beyond the authority of this power structure and we go to the international community, we recognize that not only, do we have an enemy within the United States government, but this enemy is a global enemy. It is dominated the whole world, and the international community looks at the United States a lot differently than they try to make us, or at least they portray themselves as these great liberators, this land of the free, home of the brave. Earlier in our broadcast, we were talking about how the United States have historically colonized basically people in the whole world. We talked about Haiti and what they did with the Haitian government, even though Haiti was and still is an independent nation that was aiding in the liberation and freedom fights of other nations, of Mexico and other nations who were fighting against oppressions. They were actually true beacons of actual freedom, not what this pseudo freedom that the United States talks about, which is simply exploitation. It's just an excuse for their exploitation, a justification for their exploitation, saying we're spreading freedom, we're spreading democracy, we're doing all of these things, when the fact is they're spreading their capitalist monster that is exploiting the entire world. But we talked about how, even when the case of Haiti, they invaded Haiti. As a matter of fact, you can
Yes.
talk about what you were talking about.
Yes, in 1915, the U.S. Marines were sent into Haiti and took over the treasury and took over the country. They stayed there from 1916 to 1931, 15 years, because Haiti, like I said, represented. I think we talked about earlier during the earlier time about Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson declared that there would be no independent African state or black state in the Western Hemisphere, or black republic. And Haiti was the first black republic, not only in the Western Hemisphere, but in the world, a republic, and won its independence. And South America and Mexico, they basically took refuge in Haiti, and Haiti aided them in the process of getting their liberation. Simon Bolivar, and with Bolivia is named after, was one of the leaders of the revolution for independence in South America. And he was aided by Haiti, and Haiti was helped to free Mexico and South America from Spanish rule, and so therefore it represented a threat to the United States, because the United States declared that no power can have power more than the United States. So the United States viewed Haiti as a threat, and did everything they could until they made the invasion and took over the treasury and made Haiti pay $30 billion in reparation for freeing themselves. And so, I mean, and we got to look at that and during this same period of time, when we look at Haiti and what's happened today, the U.S. Marines are in Haiti right now, and entangling themselves into the situation where they have created chaos in Haiti, to the point where the Haitians are prevailing through gangs, and gang warfare in Haiti. And so this is what we're talking about. This is what we got to really understand. The oppressor nation. Who are the oppressor nations? The oppressor nations are the United States and Canada in the Western Hemisphere. It's France and Britain and Belgium and Holland, on the European continent. These are oppressor nations. They are holding oppressed nation, including us. We are an oppressed nation inside the United States, and the native people, are oppressed people, who have been, basically killed through genocide, but they're still on reservations. There are two oppressed nations basically inside the United States. That's the native population and us, African people, New Africans, as we're calling us in the Western Hemisphere. And so when we look at that whole situation, we got to begin to understand this whole thing of oppressor nation. What is an oppressor nation? It takes all the resources, all the, from the nation that it is over. For example, France is got $65 million, from Africa, the African nation, the 15 African nations that were controlled by France, that are now under neo-colonial, are still supporting France right now. And the Africans are starving. The Africans are trying to move from Africa, where all the wealth is, into France and Europe, because they cannot survive, in their own country, where the resources have been taken out even today from Britain and France and the United States and Belgium and Holland. And so once we begin to understand that whole concept of oppressor, this is why we're saying that we got to have our own nation state, and that we're joining the world in fighting against capitalism, which is the system that makes the United States to have the power that it has, and was built on our back. We do not have capitalism without slavery, without the slavery, of African people, and without the colonialization of all the other people, which include India and others that Britain built its capitalism on. And once we understand that the African nations are still oppressed African, because they divided us up to 54 different pieces, So when we talk about Obama, they have a slogan that says, "One Africa, one people. We're one people. All of us, one people throughout the world." And they are organized in Africa for power everywhere they are in the world, so that we can begin. And that's why we are saying, and Malcolm, when he was coming back from the Organization of African Unity meeting, saying that he was going to organize all the Africans in the Western Hemisphere, under one organization, because we have to have one organization in order to be able to get reparation and all the things that we need to get from our oppression.
Yeah, definitely. The whole principle and the concept of an oppressed nation, and an oppressor nation is something we have to understand clearly, because a lot of times we get confused, and this is something we talked about earlier. We get confused about exactly who our enemy is, and the nature of our enemies. We think that our enemy is a group of white people who don't like you because you're black, and that's the reason why our oppression exists. But as you stated earlier, what our enemy is, what we're up against, is colonialism, imperialism. We're up against a system, an oppressor nation that has power and authority over us, and you use this power and authority to exploit us under this system of capitalism. And if we don't attack that, if we don't attack that right there, then we're never going to truly improve our condition. White people can love us, love the hell out of us tomorrow. It's not going to change the relationship that we have with this system and this relationship, this power dynamic that is oppressing us and causing the problems that we have faced for many decades and centuries, really. So, and that's why we talk about we are striving to gain our independence, land, and self-determination, because these are the things that we need in order to disconnect and cut the stranglehold that this system of oppression actually has on us. Until we cut these things, then we're going to always be subject to the problems and the issues that we're facing. I mean, as you pointed out, anytime, whether it be an organization or an individual who's in the lead of an organization has stepped beyond the authority of the United States, that's when they have been viciously attacked. That's when our movements have been the most viciously attacked, because that represents a true threat to this system of oppression. The independence of New Africa, the new independence of our people, that represents a true threat to this European power structure, because as long as we are under their authority and under their rule, then they can make some reform. They can put band-aids over bullets wounds and give the appearance. They can give the appearance that things are actually changing for you, but the reality is they're only doing things that allow this system to run more efficiently and more effectively. Because right now in the current situation, it doesn't matter if white people love you or hate you. It really does not matter, because you look at over the last 400 years, they have gained the resources, they have gained the power, they have gained the influence, they have gained all of these things off of the exploitation, brutality, and oppression of our people. They have done that. They have won that. We have to be clear about that. So at this point, it would actually be in their best interest to say, okay, you know what, all of this hate stuff, we're going to let that go, because our only thing hating black people do nowadays is agitate us and make us realize who we should be directing our aggression and our anger and our frustration at. That's all it does. You know, if they're smart, then they say, okay, I'm not going to do this hate stuff anymore, because I still got the resources. I still have the money, the wealth, the power, and no one has ever been punished for it. So it don't matter if white people love you or hate you. Loving us is not going to change the power dynamic. It's not going to change our condition. We have to change that power relationship. And the way that we got to do that is we got to empower ourselves. And we can't empower ourselves because we're still dependent upon a system that exploits us. So we got to have our own land. We got to be able to govern our own land, and we have to be independent in our own land. And that's what we're struggling for at the Voices of New Afrika, the New African Independence Movement. I yield on that.
Yeah. And this is where we have to begin to understand that, you know, like the colonization, under colonialism, under neo-colonialism as we have today, because we don't have any power anywhere in the world. And we look at Africa, and you know, and in the United Nations, Africa does not even have a seat on the Security Council. You know, that as such as China, such as Russia, such as the United States, such as France, such as Britain. And we got to see that this is shows us that we have to begin. This is why we said we're going to establish our power of the Africans in the Western Hemisphere. We're going to push our relationship to the point of where we understand that our provisional government that has been established since 1968 is going to be in the forefront of the struggle of all African people in the world, and we're going to be able to give our assistance, you know, as we get assistance from others who are in the same shape that we're in, and to fight against this enemy government of the United States. And the United States government is what sometimes we call the American Empire, and it's an empire that has taken over from all of the other empires of Europe. it's now facilitating the other European allies in governing African people and other people, of color in the world, and also so therefore, when we reach out to China, or reach out to Russia, or reach out to the other powers that that are in the world, or to India, or wherever we do, they're going to try to block any attempt for us to show our independence. And this is what we have to begin to understand clearly, what the whole question of oppressed nation and oppressive nation is all about. And so and when we're going to talk about how we should get power wherever we are, to establish ourselves so that we won't be a part of a so-called Democratic Party or the Republican Party. We have to understand that all things have been exhausted. All the things that we thought that were going to happen in terms of reform or whatever, thinking that was going to change our condition. Our condition has worsened since the 60s. Our condition, because the 60s was a high point of struggle here in America and in the world, and the revolution was happening throughout the world in the early 60s, and up to the 70s, and the United States government defeated the movement here to join with the revolutionary forces in Vietnam and other places that gained their independence during that period of time, and even Afghanistan, even though they've made Afghanistan a poorer nation than it was before, a starving nation, but they were defeated, and so now they're trying to get us caught up in trying to be a part of another war situation. But they're thinking that they can make themselves rise up because they can show their might in the world. But we see that might diminishing, and this is a part of the process by which we can understand how do we overthrow oppression, how do we overthrow exploitation, and how do we build a united front of all the African people in the world and be a part of that process. And the new African government, provisional government, is a part of that process that's going to lead to all of us becoming free.
Definitely. Go to the audience. I see y'all chiming in, being real active, and I do appreciate that as always. Big shouts out to you are Ubuntu. Number 2. Hello from Jacksonville, Florida. It's Floridian. Okay, what's up, man? Jacksonville. I got people down there, man. Big ups to y'all down there. Got to network, got to build together. You probably know this. Comrade Kakai is not on the show today. He said he's gonna take some time out to spend with his queen mother. And he checking in the show. He said, "What's up, comrades? Free the land to you, comrade. Gonna spend that quality time with your moms, and then come back to the show." Melly Queen, how you doing? Free the land, comrades. Baba, brother, Rob, Baba, Fadali, and family. How y'all doing? Happy Mother's Day to all our mamas and sisters. Love y'all. Free the land. Definitely love all the mothers. I'm going to give y'all the shine all the time, because every day is Mother's Day. Every day is y'all day. You know what I'm saying? Because, hey, our mama, man, y'all bear a very, very important responsibility within our struggle, because, like I said, the mother is the first teacher of the child. So within the mother, you have the power to liberate our nation, or basically destroy it. So, definitely happy Mother's Day to y'all. But Kakai, yes, you said great spending time with Queen Mother. No doubt. And Melly Queen said, talking to you, Kakai, she said that she sent you a friend request and you never responded. So please accept Melly Queen's friend request, Kakai. Kakai ain't big on social media. Neither are we, but we kind of got to force to be. But yeah, man, answer your friend request, comrades. The Queen also put, France is still getting millions from Africa. They speak French in Africa. In many nations, many countries in Africa, they do actually speak French. And that's kind of how you can look at who been really colonizing the world. Just follow the languages. You know, you go all in Africa. Most people who are indigenous, you know, most African people speak multiple languages, but you know, usually have some kind of European colonized languages, their national language. You have French, Portuguese, Belgium, some of everything. English, yeah, exactly, English. For all the black people in America, you are speaking the tongue of the colonizers. We are not English, y'all. Spanish, Chicanos, y'all, the Spanish is not your native language. I know, you know, sometimes we come over there and we envy y'all, be like, oh man, they speak their native language. No, you don't. You know, you still speak the colonizers' language too. Y'all just know how to speak two colonizers' language. Joe Gonzalez saying, Melly Queen, thank you, sister. You also said, revolutionary greetings, comrades. Revolutionary greetings to you, brother Joe Gonzalez, and thank you for sharing the show. I see you sharing the show with a couple of your comrades, so thank you very much for doing that. And if anybody out there know of anyone who would benefit from this type of conversation, who would like to join the conversation, please spread the word, you know, because we want to let everybody know what we're talking about and, you know, continue the conversation on. Confidence with it. Confidence Chizoro OKK. Greetings from Florida Caribbean. Just had an NOI meeting in Jacksonville, Florida. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. That's what we have to do. All of us, all of the individuals who are on that same page, all like-minded people, whether they be individuals, organization, or whatever, we need to be meeting together and we need to collaborate and we need to have a global united front against this enemy of oppression, because it's a global enemy, you know, because like we said, we're engaged in a global struggle. Even though we're operating on the local level, we have to do what we have to do. We have to fight locally, but we can never lose sight that we're engaged in a global struggle against a global oppressor. And yeah, that is what that is. But yeah, speaking of that, it's another story that I wanted to. Oh yeah, it's somewhere else. Cause I don't know why all of the comments are not coming to the same page. Over on our Naba page, I see Brother El Abdul Muhammad commented. How you doing? He said, "Free the land, peace, love, and life, family. Ashe." From my comrade over there on the West Coast. How you doing? Good to hear from you as always. As always. But it's another story that a lot of people have been talking about. Another black man, 30-year-old black man, Jordan Neely, was murdered on a New York City subway. In the murderer of this individual, which is a former U.S. Marine sergeant, he's finally charged with manslaughter. Now, he didn't just get charged with manslaughter because the police said, oh, we need to charge this guy. He got charged with manslaughter because basically after he killed the guy and the police talked to him, they let him go home, but there were protests and people who saw it because hours after he choked this guy out on, you know, international airways, social media, everywhere, the police just let him go home, you know, and everybody saw it, you know, everybody saw it. It's a viral video. And he had a real deadly chokehold on him. You know, me, I'm someone that is not only trained, but I teach people in the areas of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and Judo. So this particular move in which he had this guy on, and I know it well. I teach it. You know, I apply it to people all the time in training them. I had make them put it on me, and I'm, you know, don't stop until you know they have it right. And when I'm demonstrating and when I put it on people, I only put it on for a split second, not a whole second, not even a half a second, but just like put it on them. And that's it. You know, I let them go. And in that short period of time, they know everything they need to know about their chokehold. They know it works. They know if I would have kept, if I would not have let them go, they know that they would die. You could feel it because you can feel the life just coming out of you. And this guy had this chokehold on this brother for 3 minutes. 3 minutes. And in 10, you apply this chokehold correctly, in 10 seconds you will be unconscious. In 30 seconds you will be dead. But he had this chokehold on this brother for 3 whole minutes, which is way too long. Anybody who understands, these chokehold, and he being a Marine sergeant, he would have to know that. Marines get serious training. I'm not a Marine, and I know that. I haven't had the training of a Marine. I've had a lot of training, but not the level of a Marine. So there's no way you can't know that applying a rear naked choke for 3 minutes will not kill an individual. This is just ridiculous to me. This is crazy. The whole looking at the video is crazy from the fact that, he had it just almost as a restraint. A rear naked choke is not a restraint. It is an offensive weapon used to render your opponent unconscious and ultimately dead if you do not let it go in time. But add insult to injury, police didn't even let this guy go. We should not be in a situation where we have to protest and threaten to tear down a whole community before someone gets arrested for murder, for murdering our people. We just shouldn't have to do that. That's why we have to focus on gaining control of our community, creating liberated zones, controlling the justice system, the policing, the banks, the grocery stores, all of the institutions that govern our lives. We have to be in control of that, because right now, these institutions that are vital to our lifeline are controlled by individuals who are more concerned with the exploitation of our people instead of the service of our people. And it just ain't working. So we got to do something about that, and we have to do something concretely, and we got to change it. You have any comments about this particular story, Grandmaster Teacher?
No, other than we got to see that for many years the police have utilized that chokehold, and many African men have died as a result. And we've had protests to keep that the police in many places have outlawed that that kind of chokehold by so-called police officers. So here we got individuals who are white individuals who feel like they can take matters in their own hand in our community, and because this guy had for a number of years had done the same thing on subway, that he was doing that same day, and had threatened nobody, and nobody had ever been harmed by that person. So therefore, what I'm saying is, it's crazy that this guy is talking about self-defense as if he was being threatened by the person that was killed.
Yeah, definitely. There's some more comments I see.
Yeah, while we're doing that, like I say, yes.
On the African continent, people speak foreign
languages everywhere we are, even in the Caribbean, in Western Hemisphere. Africans are all speaking, languages that have made these oppressed nations language their official language. In Nigeria, in Mali, and almost all over the African continent, the official language is the former colonizers, the former oppressor language, and we're being governed by that even now, and that's why they have control and we don't have control.
I just thought about something this kind of interesting, because when it comes to our history, and Joe Gonzalez actually he actually brought up a point. I guess he was talking to our comrades that's over in Florida. He was like, comrades, get at me, talk about House Bill 999 and others in Florida, the effects that affect our community. And that Bill 999 basically it puts a ban on certain studies about gender and Jewish people. And when you look at basically what's going on in Florida, there are I've already passed several bills that ban the teachings of Black history. Basically anything that they consider to be offensive or make white people feel bad, which is basically their whole damn history, because their history is filled with genocide, murder, rape, robbery, oppression of indigenous people. That's their whole history. So anything in their damn history should make them feel bad if you are any kind of ways humane. But a lot of this stuff is going on in Florida where they're banning these things. And this reminds me, because when we stand up and we talk about the things that European people have done to us, when we talk about our oppression, when we talk about slavery, the European power structure is quick to basically say, get over it. It happened in the past. Just get over it. That's a common thing between Europeans. It's almost like the talking point as far as how do you respond to people who talk about the troubled and terrible, brutal history of the United States of America. They forget about it. That's old. It's in the past. But it's like, how can we forget about it when we are reminded of this history every day? Every day. You just talked about all of these languages. We're speaking the language of our former slave masters. We only know how to speak English because these slave masters forced us to forget to abandon our native tongue, our native language, and forced us to adopt this European language, this English in which we speak. And they say, oh, we don't speak it well. Who give a damn? You know, it ain't our language in the first place. It's the language of the oppressor. Even when we think about, look at our birth certificate, our driver's license, we see the name of former slave holders, slave owners. So everything, you know, in this society is a reminder of this system of chattel slavery, which has oppressed us and made the United States this great nation. So when they keep on saying, oh, forget about the past, how the hell can you forget about the past when what happened in the past has shaped what has happened, what is going on right now in both of our lives, in Black people's lives and white people's lives, New African lives, and these European power structure. It has shaped that. It has shaped the wealth of these great corporations and whatnot. It has shaped the poverty and the crime that exists in our communities that y'all complain about. And if we don't understand how this system, it is a system that is creating this, and it is a system in which we have to replace and get rid of, then we can never really attack the problem. We can't attack the problem. But I'm gonna yield on it. It just reminded me of that.
Yeah, so even when they have us blaming ourselves for the problems that we have. For example, when people say talk about people don't have no, you know, look at all those jobs that's listed out there, you know, and when Africans go to try to apply for jobs, the jobs don't exist. Mm-hmm. And so, but they got us thinking that we're lazy. We don't want, we don't want to work, and we don't want to do those things that would be necessary for our own. But even when we go to these places where we are hired, we're not paid enough to take care of our families. Mm-hmm. And we have a so-called welfare system that was set up, and when you find out that you cannot get Medicaid or medicine for your children, so you wound up having to quit a job to go back on welfare or on those systems that were set up to keep us victimized as a people. And once we see those things, that's why we're saying we want independence. But let me say this: the Black people, they call themselves entrepreneurs, are trying to individually become entrepreneurs in the capitalist system. The capitalist system was not built upon no individual entrepreneur. It was built on a collective of people who pulled together companies and all that to exploit the working class. And so therefore, when we talk about, when we talk about, that's why we have to clearly talk about socialism as a system. Socialism as a system by which we are going to be freed and liberated as a people when the workers become in control of the state and is able to, provide jobs for everybody. That will only become during that period of time. It will never be under capitalism where you have monopoly, taking control of all the products and all that, and they create dependency, by creating consumption and overconsumption. And these things are something that we as a people have to talk about in order so that we can know why we must become politically liberated. We got to become politically liberated so that we can become economically liberated. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to do. They'll be able to do what they've been doing. That is to come in and bomb out our businesses and run us out of communities in which we became wealthy in some instances and show independence. Every time we show any level of independence, that is when they come to destroy us and to make us. But they get us to blame ourselves and tell any black entrepreneur who supports the black entrepreneur. The African people support the black entrepreneur, the so-called African entrepreneur. And so they quit blaming us on the failures that have been created by the system, by the colonial system, because the colonial system don't want to see you independent, don't want to see you benefit, and stop trying to capitalize on our people and oppressing our people within the system by participating in that capitalist system.
Exactly. And I think we got to be clear on certain things. We should never look at the success of an individual and apply that to the whole, because that's that's kind of a strategy, almost a propaganda strategy that's used by this oppressor nation. They'll take an individual who's gained success under this system. They'll take a Oprah, they'll take a Jay-Z or TD Jakes or whoever, and say, wow, look at them, look at y'all doing good, when we don't understand, these people don't even relate to the common, the average New African person. Now, and we have to be clear when we look at, as you was talking about entrepreneurship. I mean, look, if you start your own business and you're successful, that's great. Much love, much support. I support you. We talk about buy black. But even this is not going to solve our problem. But it will help an individual. It will help, an individual with their personal finances, but that's not going to tackle the problem of our people. We have to have more than just a business. We have to have a whole independent nation, starting with independent communities, with independent institutions that serve our community. Just having a business is not going to solve the problem that we face, because our problem is we are colonized under a power structure that is benefited and is fed off of our exploitation. It is plain and simple. We are fueling this system of exploitation. As long as that exists like that, they're going to continue to exploit us. Any kind of laws or reforms or concessions that we gain is only going to mask the problem. It's going to put a band-aid on the problem while still allowing the exploitation to go on business as usual. So if you really want change, not the appearance of change, not just so it will look like a way so the oppressor can shut you the hell up. If you want to deal with the bullet holes that they've shot in us, instead of the pacifier that they put in our mouths to make us quiet about it, then we got to actually analyze the true nature of the problem and attack the true nature of the problem. And we got to focus on doing for self, being independent, and creating an ultimate goal, creating an independent nation in which we can govern our own selves and our own lives, because we have micro examples of Black people having control of their own communities and doing well and being successful. We got to take that micro and apply it to the macro, the whole. So we can do for our whole, for our people as a whole, you know, not just a few individuals which they prop up so they can say, oh, everything is all great and everything is equal and everything is fine and, you know, whatever. Joe Gonzalez, he also said, the struggle continues. This society has made us to be strong revolutionaries, warriors. We must continue to fight back mentally. So yeah, I mean, basically, if you understand science, you know, oppression will create its own resistance to oppression. That's the laws of opposite, the dialectical laws, you know. So oppression is going to bring about, you know, we only exist on this show as a response, as a the opposite of the oppression that our people have faced, you know, and so yeah, I'm with you on that. You got anything you want to say?
Yes. Once we understand that, like I said, the struggle for self-reliance,
Mm-hmm.
it's for us to be cooperative, have cooperative economics, and understand that the cooperative economic means a collective coming together and to organize, you know, the economy of our community and control the economy of our community. And once we are able to do that, you know, then it would strengthen the political power that we're talking about doing at the same time. Because once we have the political power, and which means control, not just power, but power and, you know, influence and control over our community, then we'll be able to do whatever is necessary for us to do as a people, you know, coming together collectively. And that collectivity has to be about, it has to have a socialist direction. If it does not have a socialist direction, it will fall short of what our goals and objectives are, becoming self-reliant. And so we got to understand that black capitalism is always been a myth, you know, in society. You know, we've never had power under capitalism, you know, through capitalist means. And when we do show that we are collectively coming together as a people and we're supporting our own economy and our own businesses and all that, that is when they pull out tricks such as integration. You know, want you to come into the system, you know, come on, open up, you know, and so therefore it dries up the resources because our people are going out to shop in those, you know, white businesses and stuff that they had been excluded from, you know, prior to the 60s, to the 70s. Mm-hmm. And so consequently that, you know, and our leadership, the petty bourgeois leadership have fallen for allowing white businesses to come in to their companies and being a part of it, such as Ebony and, you know, Jet Johnson, you know, became part of the so-called white economy and allowed the whites to come in and take over, you know, businesses and things, you know, and misdirect us in another way from where we were going. When we have strong businesses now, they want to come in and take control and be a part of that whole process. And we got to start resisting that kind of tendency, you know, where we do have businesses that, you know, that are serving the community, you know. Mm-hmm. And we got to stop letting them in, and we got to stop trying to join them in the capitalist system. And so this is what happened. It broke up all the businesses that were strong under the so-called segregation system, you know, because the whites refused to allow us to come into their so-called enterprises and all that, and we fell for it. Once the so-called laws supposedly changed and allow us to go in and shop in their places and all those kind of things. So we got to go back to understanding that all people, every people that do economy, they're a nation. They do it as a nation. They do it as a nation. And so once we understand that, then we can participate in the worldwide economy. But we got to understand that worldwide economy right now is dominated by capitalism
and it's going to fall because there are too many. 88% of the people are poor. 88% of the world population are poor. Cannot feed themselves. As a result of this capitalist system that has been dominated by the United States and Europe. The so-called West. And this West is also making sure that other countries can't even join the economy, such as Venezuela with all that oil. And now we got Venezuela knocking at the door of the United States trying to come in, as the Cubans did, when Castro took over, Cuba. So we got these so-called elements coming in, these capitalist elements who are capitalists. They were kicked out of Cuba, and they wound up coming here. And so they've done the same thing to Haiti and all the other people, And so consequently, it shows you how you can impoverish. There's a contradiction. There's really a contradiction because the capitalist system does not want these populations to come in, but these populations are also a consumer, and it also become part of the labor process by which, because they're going to take the lowest pay for whatever job they're going to do when they come into the country, and then they're going to knock out the jobs that other people who are already here, and so that creates a contradiction where you have struggle and all that. But the capitalist system needs the cheap labor to be a process to continue, so that the super profits can go still in the hands of those 12% who are controlling the world economy.
Definitely. I think it's really important that we understand, what you're talking about. Because a lot of people, when we start talking about capitalism and socialism, that tends to get, go over some of our people's head, because we've been trained and conditioned under the United States education system through their propaganda campaigns that capitalism is synonymous with freedom and socialism is bad, communism and all these things are evil. They're part of the boogeyman. But when you actually understand how capitalism works, it's not freedom for the people. It's actually exploitation of the people. That's the very nature of it. And if we don't understand that, and we're actually, striving or trying to, advocate our gains, fight, struggling for our independence, struggling for freedom, and we maintain this capitalist system, then we will only become the same thing that has oppressed us. We just become, we will replace a black colonizer we will replace a white colonizer, a white oppressor for blackness, and we will oppress our own people. And by rights, our people should rise up, and they probably rise up quicker, because they was like, oh, we just went through this with this white folks. We ain't finna go through it with you, But it's really important that we understand the very nature of this system, and that this is really at the root of much of the problem, this economic system that is based on the exploitation of man by man. And until you get rid of that, then we're just gonna get the same thing. We like it don't matter if white people love you or white people hate you. It don't matter, these things, I mean, it matters, but it's not going to change our condition. So we have to understand capitalism, this economic system. We got to, understand the system in general and what we're actually up against. To just thinking that we didn't fight the Ku Klux Klan, get rid of the Nazis and the so-called white supremacist ideology, we're going to be fine. Not true. It is not true, because that is not at the basis of the problem. All of these things, this racism, this hate, they are symptoms of a system that is based on our oppression and exploitation. And as long as this system continues to effectively oppress us and exploit us, exploit other people, because I'm not really interested in just saying, okay, I want to get off or get out of the exploitation of this system just so somebody else can be exploited. I don't want anybody to be exploited. I don't think you should want anybody to be exploited. What we should want is this system to be ended, so we as human beings can rise to our highest level of human potential. And we can't do that under their system. To quote my brothers from Baltimore, Precise Science, You know, only when the system falls is when humanity will rise. And I'm a yield on that.
Yes. So what we have to do is understand that when it comes down to the question of socialism versus capitalism, and we got to not try to follow Bernie Sanders and all that, thinking that they're not socialists. They're just reformist capitalists.
Mm-hmm.
And what we got to do is begin to, because when we see all the people that are coming up, you know, from Mexico and Venezuela, that's on the border, you know, of the United States, you know, that's trying to come in, that these people, you know, don't understand. They think that America is built upon gold, and the streets of America, and that they can come in and they're going to come, you know, that they're going to be able to get rich as a people because of the conditions that were created by the United States in the first place in their country, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so the policies and stuff that bringing these people in, and they're going to continue to come, and whenever they come in, they're going to, you know, give the appearance of uplifting American capitalism, because they're going to make the labor become cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, but the other people who are losing jobs are going to become part of the starving masses of people that are in this country and in those European countries. And so, but that contradiction has to take place, because capitalism, you can only get socialism when capitalism is eliminated. And so therefore that struggle is happening within inside of capitalism is a struggle that must happen.
Yep.
Because if it doesn't happen, we won't ever get the socialist system that we desire to come in terms of that. So, and it's only when the 88% are organized to understand the capitalist system and what it is and what the fault of the capitalist system is, that we'll be able to stop people from thinking that they can, you know, they can contribute and make the capitalist system better.
Mm-hmm.
And as a people, we got to begin to understand that it's only when we all come together. That means, you know, like when our people had been forced to leave the so-called South to go up to the North because they were looking for jobs and they got jobs, you know. But look at now what's happening in those places like Detroit and Chicago and all the big cities, you know, in which we ran, you know, New York, and our people are starving in those places.
Our people don't have any power in those places. And so, therefore, that's why we're saying that we got to have our own land. Land is the basis of all power. And once we begin to keep to that legacy that was laid up by our ancestors, to understand that we got to have, you know, we got to return to the land and get control over our land, so we can have control over our lives, and not fall for the reparation game that they're playing today.
Definitely. Mr. Joe comes out to see scientific socialism, the point, elder comrade. It's just, you know, a few things to build on a few points that you made. How you was talking about like certain people who are coming to the country, and we're competing for jobs because labor force becomes cheaper, and all of these things that, because like in socialism, under socialism, there's always going to be a class of people who are poor. Poverty is going to exist because not socialism, capitalism. You know, poverty is going to exist because capitalism creates poverty. So it's always going to be that group of people who are in poverty. I remember listening to an economist. They was like saying, when people say there's a war on poverty, that's a farce, because you can't get rid of poverty in the United States. It's a fix. It's something fixed. You know, the best you can do is try not to get in it, be a part of those people who are within that. But if you even look at like where the United States is going, the direction, because at this point, technology has advanced so much that most of the jobs that you know the working class get can be done by robots now. You know, you got robotics. Even some of the jobs that you think human beings would have to do, like doing the podcast or writing announcements, things like this, can be replaced by AI technology. So it's predictable that in a little while, much of the labor force is going to be wiped out completely. So under this capitalist system, you're going to have a huge poverty. Poverty is just going to grow. It's going to skyrocket. And then, that contradiction will be heightened. You know, what you're talking about, that much happens to in order so us to get socialism. So, I mean, just looking at the direction of the advancement of technology and where things are going, and this is not some anti technology rant that I'm on, because I'm not afraid of technology. Technology has always been good for human beings, and until you run into people who use it to exploit other people. People use it for exploitation, oppression, and things of this nature. But historically, technology has always been used to improve the human condition. But under the system of capitalism, it will be used to more efficiently exploit the masses. That's one reason why we're going to have to do something different. Scientific socialism, it has to be the way that we are headed, because under this system, it actually raises up the human condition. It allows people to get the resources that we need in order to survive, and not based on the exploitation of people. So, but we've been here for over an hour. I think it's about time for us to go and get out of here. Before we get out of here, you got anything you want to say to the people?
Yes. Begin to understand the oppressed
nation and the oppressed nation. Yeah. Phenomenon is, so that we'll be clear of who the enemy is, who are the enemies, are the people, and how do we struggle to get power so that we can overcome our condition. And this is something that a discussion that must be continued, because if we don't have an understanding, that's why we say we're going to educate the uneducated and re-educate the miseducated. And so therefore, and then there's another thing that we're going to study more. That is, how do we get dual power while we're in the process of organizing, for our nation to become free.
And that is a very important point. Understanding that, understanding what an oppressive nation is, understanding that we are an oppressed nation, and understanding the relationship that we have with this system and what we need to be struggling against, because there's a whole lot of, we live in a so-called information age, and sometimes I wonder, should it be called the misinformation age, because there's a lot of information out. A lot of people know a lot of things about our history, which is brilliant. A lot of people know a lot of things about spirituality and all type of stuff, which is cool, and know about some things that I'd be like, I don't even know where you're going with that. But if we don't understand how this system runs, then that ain't gonna help us gain our liberation, because you can sit and you can meditate and you can pray and you can, activate the umpteenth chakra and be able to float on water. But until we're able to gain control over the resources, the land, and gain some independence and have the ability to govern ourselves and control our lives, don't none of that matter. Don't none of that matter. I had a sister tell me the other day, we should be focused on transforming, something, and I'm like, okay, but like, after you do that, let's come on back and let's struggle to gain some land and independence and self-determination. But my name is Brother Prophecy. I'm with my comrade, my elder brother Fadali, and we'll be back next year with our brother next week. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm in the head of things, time traveling. I've been thinking about them people who've been meditating in outer space. But we'll be back next week. And y'all can continue this conversation, y'all. It's an important conversation, and not only have conversations about it, we got to put this conversation into action. My name is Brother Prophecy with Comrade Fadali. See y'all again next week. Free the land.
Free the land. Free the land.
America, full of promises. Time to cash them in. You run from it quick. You never keep your word. I learned from it quick. You keep abusing me. You dumb. Europeans murdered 98% of the indigenous population right here in Turtle Island in order to steal